I wanted to quickly walk through installing MarcEdit 7.8. This is the current version of macOS. I wanted to make sure that everything was looking right. So here we go. Tahoe 2652, currently patched. The current version of MarcEdit 7.8, you'll see it here in the downloads. The Mac build was updated on 7/4/2026. I have tested it against on Wine, which is how the application should be run. It's tested on Wine 11.0x. I think it's 11.01. It should work on newer versions. I would not move it backwards to older versions just because I'm not testing on it. There are some changes to how the process installs based on some changes that Apple's made. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through these so folks can just see kind of how it installs and what you can expect. So the first thing I'm going to do is say that in order for this to work, your best option is to install Brew. I'm assuming most folks who use a Mac probably have used it, but if you look it up, you'll find information on how to install it. There are some tools that you need to have, but here's the package manager. It will walk you through the process of installing Homebrew. The reason you want to do that is it's going to make installing Wine a lot easier, and that's the process I'm going to use here in showing you how it works. So I'm going to assume that you've installed Brew, and if you have, when you go to the command terminal and type in brew and list, it will tell you if there is anything installed, or it'll give you information about it. All right, so let's go ahead and walk through the process. So I went ahead and went to the MarcEdit webpage, the download pages. Here's the Mac build options. There's instructions here. These are the preferred method: brew, install, cast, wine stable, but you can install under wine staging. The download link is here, so I'm just going to go ahead and download it. I have not yet installed wine yet. I'm going to do that here while we're talking. I just want to show that again. Wine is not installed, so we are going to walk through all of those processes here. So the download has finished. All right. So the program has said that this is the preferred method. This is the preferred method, so I'm going to go ahead and install that. So from my terminal, you don't have to run from a elevated terminal, but you will need to have your password to be able to install software. On Wine, the 11 version, there is the way that they handle the desktop streaming requires the installation of a component that will require a password, and you'll see that here in a minute. So we'll do brew, install, cast, and then wine stable. And it's going to go ahead and look and see. It sees that there's something to install. Tell it yes, and it will start going through the process. And so here in a minute, it's going to get to a point where it's going to tell me some things. Here it's going to install. It wants to install GStreamer runtime. That is a component that's used for the X desktop. So enter my password, and it goes ahead and installs. The one thing I will say is that you will, depending on if you have done this is the first time you're running this, Wine runs as an Intel-based processor application. So on Apple's devices, you want to make sure that Rosetta 2 is installed. They give you the notes here. Software install Rosetta, agree to license. That will install Rosetta 2. That allows Intel applications to run on Macs, M2, 3, 4, 5 chips. I've already have it installed. Typically, it'll install the first time you try and run an Intel process, but I would recommend if you are going through this to go ahead and run it. If it's installed, it'll tell you. If not, it'll go ahead and download it from Apple and install it on the system. So we have it installed. So let's look here. Brew list and we can see here that's the runtime that was installed for the desktop, and here is Wine. All right, so a couple things now before we get started. So Wine is one of those, it's an Intel-based application, and when Apple made some changes to the operating system, they have included changes to their Gatekeeper application, which watches for malware and viruses. Traditionally, Apple would prefer that all installation of software on their the Mac system go through the App Store. There are reasons I don't do that. There are good reasons. For example, like Wine isn't available that way. That's why Homebrew exists, to make installation of software that honestly you don't want to do it through the App Store easier. But that also means that you're going to have to deal with some security stuff. So let me show you what I mean. The easiest way to deal with this is just to, from the terminal after you've done your installation, try and run Wine. And what's going to happen is it's going to attempt to run it, and it's going to tell you that it can't. That's okay. That's Gatekeeper saying, I don't understand what this application is. It didn't come from the App Store. I'm not going to run it. So the way that you fix that is you are going to go to Settings. You're going to go down to Privacy and Security. You're going to go down to here, and it's going to say Wine Stable was blocked to protect your Mac. You're going to tell it to open anyway, and then it's going to ask you for permission to do that. I'm going to enter my password, and it's going to allow it to run. So now over here you can see that Wine Stable is run. This allows you, if you're interested, to look at how Wine is configured on your device. You do not have to do this, but I'm going to show you. There is a tool called Wine Config. By default, 11.01 runs as Windows 10. I have a version that's already been installed before, and I forgot to delete the Wine configuration file, and so I changed it to Windows 11. But you have all of these different Windows versions you can run. I prefer to change the application to run as Windows 11 because that's how MarcEdit is developed. Windows 10 is no longer being supported by Microsoft, so there's really no reason to have it there, but the application will run in Wine in either Windows 10, which is the default, or Windows 11 mode. I'm just going to go ahead and let you see that that's there. All right, so we've done that. So now we need to install MarcEdit. So I downloaded MarcEdit. We can find that in the downloads area. It's right here, it's a package. I'll go ahead and open it, and I'm going to click on it, and it's going to do the same thing that Wine did the first time I run it. It's going to say, hey, can't verify it's free of malware, could harm your Mac. So we go through the same process. Go back over here, go to System Settings, go back to Security, Privacy and Security, and again we see that the application is there, and we tell it to open anyway. And it's going to ask me again for my password, and it's going to start the installer. I go ahead and let it install, and it's finished. And so it can go ahead and get rid of the installer. I don't need it anymore. I should not need that window either anymore. I should also not need that. All right, so now I will go to, after it's installed, the first thing you'll notice is usually you can go to apps here and you'll find the apps that are installed here. You'll see it's not here yet. I have found that for whatever reason, that this lookup window, I'm not sure it's just my local device, it's slow updating. Usually I have to run the application first, so I find it's easiest to just go or reboot the Mac. In this case, I'm just going to go to Applications. I'm going to find that it's been installed right here, and I'm going to run it. So I just double click on it. Wait a second. And there we go, MarcEdit 7.825. So what are the things that are not working on MarcEdit? Really, the only thing that I'm aware of has to do with the using the web view. So those are things like here, the Ask Mabel. There should be a web browser that goes in here so you can interact with, say, for example, the help screen and get access to tutorials directly within the application. That's a Microsoft component. Supposedly you can install it and have it show up in Wine. I'm not quite sure why why it hasn't. What that also means then is that tools like the Z39.50 tool will require you to have the information about the tools that you're trying to access rather than actually knowing, being able to search for them, because that searching happens inside of a text box. And so that won't be there. But otherwise, you have access to stuff, and you can go to the config thing here and check boxes and set the configuration. The tool does the same thing as before. It shuts down, reboots, shows you stuff in the application again. When I said the client, this would usually be a web browser. So that's not working because again, that's not set up. So if you want to add one, you're just gonna have to add it from here and then know the properties that you were gonna ask for. Pretty straightforward. But other tools work. So for example, the Generate AI tool, that works inside of here. I don't have any of the LLMs configured either locally or here yet, so I can't show it. I probably will later, but all of those things work. So that's pretty much how it works. So what happens if it doesn't work when you try and set this up? There are a couple things I can tell you. So the first one is if you're running on a machine that's managed by an institution, you may have to ask your administrators about the MDM, what the organizational profiles are that are set up. Essentially, you do need to be able to elevate your runtime permissions in order to install the application and to install the parts of Wine that are used. That way the application can work. Now the benefit of running inside of Wine is that the application then becomes sandboxed inside of Wine. And all of the data that the application has access to is basically just what's within your user profile. And it's easy to get rid of if you don't end up wanting to keep it, because Wine stores all of its file data in a single location. It's all stored at the root level. There's your drives, all the user information, registries, and stuff. So it's real easy to delete. You can delete that Wine folder, and everything about the Wine environment will go away. So it's a pretty isolated environment to work in, but it allows me to run MarcEdit within a single code base. You can do this exact same thing on Linux, same app process, except instead of using Brew, you would install Wine Stable using your Linux tools, and the application will work the same way as it works on your Apple system as well as on the Windows system, with the caveats of the specific component there for the web browser that seems to be quirky for whatever reason. So anyways, that's how this works. If you have questions,